All right, we're live. Silver Doctor's live on air. Looking forward to having a little good some back and forth this afternoon. If that being the case, welcome to this live stream on 1/6/2020 rather. What I'm talking about. So my name is Mike, the co-host of Silver Doctor's live on air. My better half over here, Mr. Half Dollar. How you doing, my friend?
Doing good today, Mike. It's good to hear from you this Monday. A lot of stuff happened over the weekend, so there is a ton of stuff to talk about today.
Yes, it is. So before we move any further, let's check in with the chat and see what's going on. Actually, let me pop this window out. If you don't mind, if you got the chat up, go ahead and acknowledge a couple of people if you like.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we got Bobby Jones with us today. We got CP. We got Silver Junkie. We got low blood pressure in the house. We got Havoc Shorts 120. We got Gooseneck. We got Jason Haberl. So we got a bunch of people tuning in right now. We got 52 watching us live. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on this beautiful, cold Monday in early January.
But the good news is the sun is shining today, and I've noticed I haven't seen the sun in 2, 3, 4 days up here in Detroit. So when I saw the sun, I knew it was going to be a good day. So I'm going to make it a good day, best case scenario. So let's do something relatively different today because we got our primary subject matter, but yet, of course, everyone has a unique perspective and opinion on what's going on with this Middle East stuff. So if you don't mind, I want to check in with the chat and just find out what people are feeling, what people are thinking, so we can make sure we include them. So
yes, and as you do that, let me say one thing right before you do that. Thing right before you do, Mike. This is such a divisive issue. I have never seen stuff as divided in this country as it is right now. We've lost about 100 subscribers from our last live stream because of the we're just looking at what we can see and we're trying to sort this stuff out, right? We're just a couple guys trying to figure this out with people calling in and help us trying to figure it out, right?
Exactly.
And people are participating in the chat. We have received so many hate mails in our email account with this. I mean, it is just so divided right now. It's not looking good. But yeah, let's check in with the chat and do what you said, and I like how that sounds.
Okay, sounds good. So with that being the case, for those that are watching, share with us your opinions. And so, Mr. Half Dollar, you referenced that a lot of people are angry, and it's a very divisive subject matter. But I'm trying to get to the core essence of what's so divisive. Like, we're at a point where, we're on the cusp of war or in war, depending on how you want to look at it. And it's not something that you and I personally would want to be a part of, but that's how things are playing out. So, I'm not sure exactly how and why people can be so angry, and I'm curious to find out. That's why I want to start off this way. So, with that being the case, if you have a thought or a unique perspective on where we're at, where we're heading, feel free to let us know. Keep it clean and just keep it respectful. But share your thoughts, and I would love to hear what you have to say. And so let's thumb through here a little bit. So Bobby Jones says, Iraq war vet here, 6/2007. I felt your pain on Friday. God bless your brother. You're not alone. So this reference to you, Mr. Half Dollar. Says, blessings. We got silver hammered, 45 cents down to 1804 now. More JP Morgan manipulation. Let me see. Box weird. Yeah. Hello from Germany. Let me see here. Anything in particular, Mike? We can hear you today. Low blood pressure. Yeah, so I got the mic right here. 70 here in Corpus Christi. Not angry. Growth of the size and power of the state as our currency collapses worries me the most. January 14th may not be the day the dollar collapsed, but Trump is acting like it. I think everything happens to raise price of oil. So nothing directly in regards to the Middle East situation, but let's kick it off a little bit. And so the very subject matter of today is the fact that the U.S. is at or undeclared war with Iran. And so, Mr. Half Dollar, where do you want to take this today?
Well, let's just first take it with a little bit of blast from the past here with this Jerusalem Post article, the first link that I sent you.
All right.
And we don't really need to read it. We just need to look at the concept of this. And it's basically General Petraeus, and he's saying that the strike against Soleimani is more important than killing bin Laden, right? And he also went on to say that it's more important than killing al-Baghdadi, right? That we killed last month or a couple months ago or something like that, who was the leader of ISIS. Yeah. But think about this, right? So just a little blast from the past and a little history lesson here. When did we kill Osama bin Laden, right? If you go by the official story, that was on May 1st, 2011. I'll give you one guess of what day of the week that was, Mike.
Sunday?
It was a Sunday. It was definitely a Sunday. And that is what we call the May Day Massacre in the Silver community, right? That's the drive-by shooting on Silver. Yeah. Silver was at $50 that Sunday night, basically, right, give or take, $50. And within 4 days after the news broke of Osama bin Laden being killed, silver was down to $34, a 32% drop in 4 days. So, I mean, I don't know, silver isn't like on its way to dropping 32%. Of obviously past performance is not indicative of future performance, right? But, I don't think that this is because Petraeus was going on to say that this does a lot to defuse things in the Middle East. This isn't that at all. I think this is the start of something, which I was trying to get the point across on Friday, right? This isn't the end of something. This is the start of something here. Yeah. Thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah, I believe that this is the start of something, and one thing that does concern me is the fact that we don't know how this is going to play out. And so I've had a chance to go through President Trump's Twitter feed and see how he's drawing a line in the sand in the most part, saying that if Iran responds in any form or fashion, if any hair is touched on the head of an American, we are coming in full force. We have 52 targets ready, locked and loaded. Our military, we just I saw something about, $2 trillion, some number out there into our military. We're ready to send it over. It's all brand new. And I'm like, and I remember when we were off air on Friday, we were talking about how if you look back at the history, how everything has been deliberately being built up. Like the deployment of troops in small increments has been taking place since last spring, as you highlighted, to where this is all a strategically planned not event, but occurrence right now. We're not here by coincidence, put it like that. And so,
it's like I'm concerned. Self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
Yeah, exactly. So go ahead.
A couple points on that you make, because the word that he used was disproportionate, right? So if you attack anything American, we're going to strike back quick and hard, and maybe even disproportionately, right? So, meaning we're going to come in even harder.
Yeah.
And, it's just ratcheting it up and ratcheting it up and ratcheting it up, because Iran's not going to back down from this, and President Trump's not going to back down from this. Well, what is the solution? There is no solution. And this is not contained to just Iraq or Iran. This is Syria. This is Israel. There's just news coming off today about Turkey is invading Libya or deploying troops to Libya. I mean, this is the entire Middle East. On top of that, let's go here as well. So yeah, President Trump did make those very clear. And because here's the other thing, right? When he said we will strike back hard and fast and disproportionately, well, already there's that Zero Hedge article, right? And here's a summary of what happened over the weekend. So multiple unguided missiles and mortars fired into 2 regions in Baghdad. 5 people wounded in a green zone attack in Baghdad. Balad, which is different, right? 3 Iraqi soldiers were wounded, but they were hit by missiles, right? But we're there at Balad. Explosion heard in Mosul, and then Hezbollah saying Iraqi security forces stay away from U.S. bases. But the point is, there's been retaliation already at a minor level, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if we move into the next one with that AFRICOM little press release there, and remember we were talking about this a while ago, but Africa is also getting hot. So we had a terrorist attack in Africa on a joint base, U.S. base in Kenya over the weekend. Did you hear about that, Mike?
Yep, I saw some headlines.
1 service member was killed and 2 DOD contractors were killed. So, and that was supposedly, what's the group called? Al-Bashab or I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Al-Shabaab. So this is like an offshoot of Al-Qaeda, right? So, there's just terrorism all over the place. There are attacks all over the place. This is an escalation of force all over the place. So I'll just stop right there and go ahead and get your thoughts.
All right. So I will actually forego my thoughts because we have a call. And so let's see if we can get somebody on to find out what's on their mind. So we do have somebody here. Let me make sure we can hear them. All right, so let's see how this goes. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, Mike and Paul. This is Jim Kolatz calling you from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota.
All right, how you doing, Jim? What's on your mind this afternoon?
Well, my question, gentlemen, is what in the world is the grand plan here? Is this this attack on this general and the Iraqi leader, is this just merely what Gerald Celente says, that they will take it to war in trying to cover up an inevitable economic collapse? Or is there some other plan that's in the works here? Because it certainly seems that the moves that our leadership is making are very unwise, and just looking to see what you gentlemen think.
All right, sounds good. So, John, we appreciate that. We'll answer this off air so that Mr. Havdalah you can hear him live when he speaks. So, thanks for the call, my friend.
Sounds great. Thank you,
Mr. Havdalah. You want to touch on that?
Yes, and that's a great point that he makes. That's one of the things, right? It's the ultimate distraction. War is the ultimate distraction. That's number one. And number two, we've referenced those Fed studies that talk about war stimulating economic growth for 12 to 14 quarters. Mm-hmm. And then three, I'm not the authority on this, right? I am not sure of all the intricacies related to this, but let's also not forget that that country that begins with an I has a lot at stake and wants to just, because Iran said that if President Trump retaliates, because Iran retaliates to what happened from the drone strike, right, then Iran is going to wipe Israel off the face of the map. Right. So there's also that going on. This is, President Trump and Netanyahu and Israel go hand in hand right there. And it's definitely anti-Iraq right there as it is. Mm-hmm. Like I said, this isn't just contained to one simple area. And, like people like Ron Paul and Paul Craig Roberts said that this is something that can literally spark World War III here. So we're not just being tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists trying to spread, fear porn and doom and gloom. That's not what we're doing. We're just trying to keep it real. So yes, I think it's a culmination of all of those things. It's a distraction. Someone even tweeted off something about how something about the impeachment process for Clinton was being delayed because of something that was happening. I can't remember exactly where, but they were like, uncanny timing, isn't it, that this is going on all of a sudden at this time? Those are my thoughts. Your thoughts, Mike? I don't know if I answered that good or not.
So I'll add a little bit onto it. So as far as the ultimate goal, so I guess the ultimate goal, if you think long term, a lot of this, what's occurring in the Middle East, it has a lot to do with the a lot of biblical prophecy type things. So I have to incorporate the spiritual elements of it, because just the mere fact that Israel is the smallest country for the most part in that region and the most hated is not by coincidence. It goes back well before modern time, or well before the state of Israel became a country in of itself, and it has a lot to do with just the inbred hate amongst I want to go too far back, but just from God's chosen people to those that are not of the promise of Abraham. So that's the core essence of it from a spiritual point there. But it's a matter of how the U.S. has been an scapegoat and being utilized as a pawn towards Israel's best interest in that region there. So all these events here ultimately has to do with this distraction from what's really going on. And amongst all of the things we're talking about here is the fact that there is a reset or restructuring happening right now in our monetary system. And so the end result of all of this will be on the other side of, God forbid, some type of real systemically impactful war, will be the reboot and remonetization of the entire global economy the way we know it. So at the end of the day, it's a spiritual core element of evil that's occurring in our region that will trickle down into a financial world, to just the way our lives are ran in general. So that's my little 2 cents there.
Yes, you make a great point, because you're talking about, I don't know how many generations we're talking about now, but generation after generation after generation after generation after generation of hostility in the region. So yes, this is something that's been ongoing for, thousands of years. Yeah. And, it's not something that, we're going to be able to resolve in 2020 and then just be like, okay, we just made the Middle East great again. Right. That's not something that's going to happen. A couple interesting points also, you had mentioned the 52, right? And we always talk about, I always do talk about how like the deep state and the deep state globalists and stuff like that, they're really interested in their numbers and their symbology, right? So the symbolism behind 52, President Trump literally tweeted out that we have 52 targets. We have 52 Iranian targets representing the 52 hostages taken by Iran when they stormed the embassy back in, when Carter was president there. Yeah. So, is it a coincidence that there's that symbolism there?
So, Austin, here's the biggest question is, outside of what was laid as a foundation to 52 and the reason why President Trump tweeted that, Was 52 already a predetermined number last year at the same time when they started deploying troops? Was like, so of course we have I forgot offhand, I should have came prepared with it, but the military general that referenced several years ago under investigation, Wesley Clark, saying that he gave the whole game plan as to what's coming, and Iran is a part of that, and it's pretty much the last country that needs to be addressed. And so was 52 decided at that time, well before then. So
it could have been.
Yeah. So, and some of the I'm gonna actually find it, but some of the areas that they're targeting is not necessarily what we would consider threats to our national security. It's just like cultural, agricultural, like nuclear, oil, you name it. It's all types of targets. Go ahead.
Yes. It was 7 countries in 5 years. And that's part of this whole Kenya attack, right? Because one of those countries was Somalia. Like, what business do we have with Somalia? One of those countries was Somalia. And that's where that Al-Shabaab thing came off of, where the service person died over the weekend and the 2 DOD contractors. So, yeah, I mean, this is just not good one way or another.
So
there was another point.
So before you move on, just that very region. What is this is of course this is just a rhetorical question, but what's the greatest reason why we would be engaged in all that activity there? Where will we stand to benefit? And it has to do with the petrodollar system remaining alive while all those nations have decided to begin removing themselves off the dependence of the Federal Reserve note and all the debt we've instituted throughout the world. So as they're reshuffling and wanting to do things outside and beyond the dollar, what so happens that we're going in there to reinforce what's in our national best interest, and all those nations that you mentioned that you would wonder, like, what in the world will we have to do in that nation? But what's under their ground? How do we stand to benefit the most? And it happens to be what's under the ground. So
yeah, exactly. And it was like Iraq, Syria, Libya, Somalia, Iran, and one more. I can't remember the other one, but I think I remember it was like 7 nations within 5 years.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you had a call, so I lost the call. But go ahead. Oh, we still have a call here. Give me one, Mr. Paul, Mr. Half Dollar. 1 second. Let's get this call. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
How you doing, guys? It's low blood pressure, Corpus Christi, Texas.
Low blood pressure. How you doing? Happy New Year to you, my friend. What's on your mind?
Happy New Year, guys. I think it's all this is simple. What's going on in Iran? I think it's just a petrodollar push. Like what they did to Saddam. Move away from the dollar, from oil, give you democracy. They did it to Gaddafi, gold dinar. You get democracy. And I think this guy in Iran, they just gave him a little democracy. You know how America rolls. I think that's what they're gonna do to Iran. I think all of this is just to push up the petrodollar. Yeah. Tell me what you guys think about that.
All right, low blood pressure. Answer off air. Appreciate the call, my friend. I like your thinking.
All right, thanks.
All right,
bye.
Mr. Half Dollar.
This is a tough one. I think he makes a great point, right? And I would agree that, once people start turning their back on the dollar, then that's it. You just signed your own death warrant at that point, as far as the world leaders go. Although on the other hand, right, we supported Saddam Hussein at one point in the early 80s, right? And we supported Gaddafi at one point. So it's like, on the one hand, we use these tyrants and all this to our advantage, and then we're done with them. Or if they do something that they fall out of line with, then we dispose of them and create an even bigger mess from vacuum for the next tyrants come in that we push. As far as Iran, though, this is tricky, right? Because think about like Iraq, right? Iraq's just been bombed to smithereens since the early 90s, right?
Yeah.
But Iran, we haven't been engaged in bombing the smithereens out of Iran since the early 90s. We haven't been in an invasion in Iran. Iran is bigger than Iraq. They have a larger military than Iraq. This is really tricky, right? Because, if we're talking about going to war with Iran, that's not like going to war against Syria or going to war with Iraq or something like that per se. This is much, much bigger. And, Iran is not a foe to be underestimated. I'm not saying we can't obliterate them, right? We could obviously obliterate them, but I'm just saying just going up against them, you're talking about getting bogged down in those mountain regions, and that's not like military friendly there. Think about Afghanistan, and it's kind of what we're talking about.
All right, so watch this. Before you finish, as you're finishing that thought, we have a call. Let's get to this. I was trying to let you get it all out, but hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. Hey, Paul. This is Jason calling from Pennsylvania. How are you?
Doing good, Jason. How you doing, my friend? What's on your mind?
I'm doing great. Well, I'm flattered you read my comment in the chat at the beginning of the live stream, but it's I don't remember to whom to attribute this quote, but that foreign war are always used as an excuse to, clamp down on the domestic population. And as the currency collapses, I think that people are going to demand even more government. And I think that with this new smoking age at 21, police are going to be able to pull over a car just because they see a pack of cigarettes in it. And, that, again, the growth of the state worries me more than anything. And I just think that the unsuspecting souls are going to demand more government when it was the government, the central banks that caused this all in the first place. So that's it. That's my comment, and I love you guys. I've been listening since it was the Doc and Eric Dubin. I've never missed a podcast. I listen to them all the time while I'm walking my dog. I'll take my answer off the phone. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for calling in, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the likelihood that the people will want more government sounds like it could be something that people would typically fall for, because when there's problems surface, most people look outside for their solutions as opposed to inside to how they can impact their own world. So I don't doubt that people will accept whatever narrative is given to them, and then they'll say, how are you going to fix it? And then along with that problem, the government going to say, this is our 3-point plan to help you, da-da-da-da-da-da. We're going to create a new bureau of something or another. We're going to create 100,000 jobs with this new department of. So, yeah, that's typically how things seem to work. So that does make sense, Jay. I appreciate you for sharing that.
Yes, he is right on point. I appreciate the call, and we're trying to get the Doc and Eric Dubin back in to do some stuff with us. And they're coming back, but it's just been a process. So be looking out for that, because we've been, we can get the Doc to write a little bit here and there. And I've been talking with Eric Dubin to get him back on for some shows here and there. So we're going to bring some people back with us. But yeah, he is absolutely right. Think about the Department of Homeland Security, right? That wasn't even a thing before 9/11. Think about the Patriot Act. It's not like they wrote this huge Patriot Act after it. They had that stuff already there, and they were just looking for that spark, which is very, very scary, because think about this, right? I can see, right, on the back end of Silver Doctors, as managing editor, I can see that this issue has divided this country like no other issue has. This is more divisive than like the left versus right. This is more divisive than Trump versus the deep state. This is more divisive than everything, right? What's going on right now in the Middle East and with Iran and all of this. So I think that you're right, Mike, and this is scary, right? Because if you're right, because we're so divided, how are you going to get everybody to rally behind the flag?
All right.
And you said it.
There's going to, and I mentioned this again this weekend, from the idea that there's sleeper cells, and that they're painting a narrative that at any moment there could be a strike. And so the bar has been set so low, and the response is so impactful that if one hair on an American is blown off, we're going full steam ahead. So if you're Iran, I would imagine that with our red flag being raised in their country with signals that they're, at war, or they're at war and getting ready for war, whatever that means. If they respond in any fashion, we've already set the stage that we're going to go full tilt. There's no hose bar on what we're going to do. And it's not just going to be just us responding to the Iran in any form of fashion. There's going to be, as you mentioned, a contagion of other nations, because Iran also has allies. All those joint military drills wasn't just for fun. So I haven't heard much about China and Russia, apart from, I think there's a couple of tweets or something referencing to China saying that we need to slow down a little bit. Let's just think this through, because if we do strike, Iran is partnered with China and Russia, where they stand to lose out on some of their investments in the Iranian process and the redevelopment and all those things because of sanctions. So I don't think they're going to sit back and take a loss as well. And so to hit it even further, with it looks like yesterday or over the weekend, I think the Iraqi government has expelled the U.S. from their country, and then tweet Trump saying that you pay us back our billions or we're not going nowhere.
Yes, that's what I just wanted to bring up, because, think about this, right? He campaigned on bringing the troops home, right? I've been talking about he's trying to eat his cake and have it too, because he's talking about we're going to strike them on the one hand, but on the one hand, we don't want war and we're going to bring the troops home. But they voted to expel the U.S. troops, and he's saying, well, you got to pay us first. Isn't he like the king of debt and the king of bankruptcy, and he knows how to cut his losses and run? If he really wanted to bring the troops home, we would just cut our losses and run. You see what I mean? So yeah, this is maybe sometime, if I can ever work up to it, I'd really like to give specific examples of exactly why and how wars are active, but I just don't think that I could do it. So right now, anyway. So I can't talk about those things right now. But just because it'd be too emotional. But yeah, that's exactly right. So I find it interesting as well that, why don't we just leave? They want us to leave. Why don't we just leave? Ron Paul said that would be the best thing to happen out of this whole thing, was that the Iraqis say, hey, Americans, get out of our country, but not President Trump saying, well, no, you got to pay us for al-Assad or whatever he was talking about.
And right now, it wouldn't be ideal for us to be kicked out and have to literally close down shop and miss out on all the bases and all the things that we've established there in this whole war against terror over the last 20 plus years. All that in taxpayer funds, they could care less about if they lose it anyway. But at the same time, they're deploying thousands of troops. They need somewhere to park them. And they need somewhere and Iraq is right on the doorstep of the place where they're wanting to go in and to invade. So it wouldn't be strategic, because where would we place those troops at this current moment? They're not welcome in Syria. I don't know anything about Jordan, anything of the surrounding areas, but Iraq happens to be the only place where we can place our assets in the case we got to go to war or whatever. Yeah. So
and just think about this, right? And then on top of that, and then the Africa thing, and I keep going back to the Africa thing, but my point is this, right? We're in Afghanistan, right? We've left some troops behind in Syria. Mm-hmm. We're having problems with Iraq and Iran again. The Africa is flaring up. How many, we talk about fighting a trade war on all of these fronts, right? Against the European Union, against Canada and Mexico. There's no deal yet. Nothing's been signed. I don't know why everybody keeps claiming victory. Trade war, China. Well, the same thing with real war. So we're going to engage in a trade war on multiple fronts worldwide and simultaneously engage in hot war, a war on terrorism on multiple fronts worldwide. I mean, this is just absolutely out of control. Yeah. But since we know the debt has to go parabolic, right, because that's the only way that it's sustainable is if it goes parabolic, then that's what has to happen, right? Because they got to fire up those printing presses.
Right.
So,
and so someone just mentioned here in the chat, Saudi Arabia. So that's another country that is involved in all this, and I forgot where. I would assume if Saudi Arabia is open to continue with the petrodollar system, I'm assuming they got their own backdoor deals where they're accepting oil outside of dollars, I'm sure. But yet, would that be a location where we can place American troops on their soil as a?
Well, we have been, right? That's where part of that buildup has been to Saudi Arabia as advisors for the Saudi Arabian military. And I think the talk about that came when they had that, when the Houthis fired those, they said that it was Iran.
That drone attack.
On the oil facilities. So yes, I mean, that has actually happened and is happening. So the buildup is real, right? The buildup right now is in Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and also in Africa. So these are where all these areas. And when I say Africa, I'm talking about Kenya, right? I don't know exactly what's going on in Somalia, but just in general, Djibouti, that's another one. So this is definitely just not good one way or another. But I'm ready to move topics here, Mike, if you're ready to, because there's a couple other things we need to hit on before we close today.
All right, feel free to do so, my friend.
My favorite topic, and this just came out this morning, and this is actually important, and you'll see. This is the one, and we kind of skipped around on those links I sent you, but this is the one from CNN Business, right? So one of America's oldest, right? But this is the largest milk producer just filed for bankruptcy today, Mike. Gordon.
Oh, okay. That's not good.
No, it's not good. In the month of November is when Dean Foods filed for bankruptcy. Just today, right, we're getting news that Borden has filed for bankruptcy. Now, here's a couple interesting points because, on my radar is food inflation. And actually, I don't tell my wife that food inflation is on my radar, but she went to Walmart yesterday and she came home. She was like, wow, I mean, you can't even get out of Walmart anymore without spending $100 every time you go there, and you don't even have a full cart. But here's my point, right? Borden said that it cannot afford its debt load and you know what else?
You
know what else?
Hold on.
Pension obligations.
Oh, yeah.
And his pension obligations. But here's the other thing that I want to make a note of that struck me as interesting. Listen to this. Borden noted that more than 2,700 family dairy farms went out of business in 2019. This is not a booming economy. This is not a recovering agriculture in the United States. This is bad. This is bad all around for inflation, for food in general, for food price inflation. So thoughts on any of this, Mike?
So I want to, before I comment, we had a call, so we missed that call. Give us a call back. We'll get you in. But What's most striking is that it says 27 family. So family, so smaller operations that were in business. So small business owners are no longer operating. Therefore, on the unemployment side of things, on top of the 1,000 people is going to be laid off from board, and then we got the small family farms that's going under, and then we got the pensions obligations there. So at the core essence of this upcoming decade is the fact that there's going to be major challenges on just the concept of employment, and then all the promises that have come from prior employment from corporations are going to be challenged. So there's nothing good in sight for the most part in this next decade outside of the war aspects. We got the political chaos, and then at home we got the inflation aspect you're touching on. Then we're going to have the employment situation, then all the thousands and millions of broken promises of retirement stuff. We're setting ourselves up for a very interesting decade, unfortunately. And so before I move on, we got a call. Let me get to this call so that we can get that thought. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, this is Pat from Alabama. How you doing?
Doing good, Pat from Alabama. How you doing, my friend? Happy New Year. What's on your mind?
Well, number one, let's talk about war and everything. There's roughly, I don't really know, about 7,000 miles from home.
Mm-hmm.
Iran is. It's a long strike distance. They have a population of around 42 million people. We have a population of over 300 million. They're not going to go to war with us. They're going to do their thing that they've been doing since both of us have been children.
Mm-hmm.
Is they're going to threaten and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
The economy. Paul is absolutely right. The economy is going to crap in a handbasket.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can take our number one industry, which is the military complex,
mm-hmm.
put it to work, then we're coming out of our economic problems. And so,
yeah,
there you go. That's all I got, Mike.
All right, my friend, I appreciate you. So the biggest thing is the slowdown of our economy at this current time frame where war is on the horizon and the impeachment, all that political chaos. And so, yeah, it's just everything seems to be coming to a standstill at some point to where we're going to have to address a lot of issues this year alone.
War brings money to the economy.
Yeah.
War brings money to the economy. Ever since the Civil War and they decided that they could make money off of war,
mm-hmm.
we've been in the Spanish-American War where it just got a little bit more money.
Yeah.
World War I where they made a friggin' fortune.
Yeah.
World War II where the military complex was just established.
Yeah.
And then we've had all the wars ever since then to keep them funded.
Yeah.
We're a military economy.
Yeah.
But, I do have one thing for you, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you'd be so kind as to give me a phone call, because I think you got my number there, and I want to buy some of them neat little sweaters and T-shirts from you. I want to spend some money with you.
Okay, so assume you're referring to the Rethinking a Dollar. So if you don't mind, just go to rethinkingadollar.com/store, and you can get a better idea of what's going on there. So, but I'll reach out to you. I appreciate you, my friend.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to hear. Y'all have just a lovely day, please.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, Mr. Habdallah. Sorry about that. For sure, your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, look, we are a war economy. He's absolutely right. I mean, that's what the United States exports, right? We export war. That's our principal product. That and dollars, and culture, right? CIA controlled culture through music, movies, Hollywood, and things of that nature. I think that it would be asymmetrical, though, right? Because absolutely, well, first of all, I don't think the United States military would want a full-scale ground invasion in Iraq. That would just be in Iran. That would just be difficult, just because we talk about just how big it is, and it's a much bigger army than Iraq's ever was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, asymmetrical warfare, absolutely, that's what I would be looking for. And that asymmetrical warfare is like pretty much the entire world's a battlefield at that point.
Yeah. Yes, it is. So, with that being the case, it's time to withdraw a little bit and bring home the troops ourselves, in a sense.
One more point.
Go ahead. Lay that point.
It's just ridiculous. It's that Market Watch thing that I sent you.
Okay, let me
and
pull it
listen
up.
to this title. So I'm going to read the title as you're pulling it up. U.S.-Iran tensions spark increased volatility. Here's how to play the stocks, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's like, doesn't matter what's going on. We could be on World War III and half the planet could be blown up, but you just keep investing in the stock market, Mike. Keep investing in the stock market. And guess the word that is not mentioned in this article.
What's that?
Gold, right? The word gold is not mentioned in this article. Gold shot up to $1,590 last night in the first minute when the markets opened. $1,590.
Mm-hmm.
And silver got over $1,855. And sure enough, like someone had made a comment, I can't remember who, when they called in, and yeah, $1,811 right now and going down even lower. So the market still, even after everything that's gone on over the weekend, right? The markets still do not think that this buildup is real. They still do not think that there's any risk at all. And they still think that no matter what, stocks aren't going down and there's no flight to safety or safe haven move into gold or silver. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And I didn't really do much of a market update. So just a couple quick points. Oil's only gone up a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Gold and silver, they're only up a couple bucks. Silver's probably actually down now since they've been able to walk it down. Stock markets, it dropped this morning, but it's miraculously gone on a 45-degree angle straight up ever since the open. So, just markets are still not accepting the fact of everything that's going on, even though we've been sounding the alarm hard, Mike.
Now watch this. Now when you say markets, so first thing came to mind is the fact that markets. Okay, so markets are not responding, and so my guess would be the markets are not responding, and we shouldn't anticipate them to respond the way they did in prior instances where there was war talk. And basically, so everything we're doing is a point of reference from the past, and how always in the past everything always responded and reflected in the markets. So outside of precious metals getting a bid and a lot of other assets, so the cryptocurrency markets got a little bit as well. But yet the stock market hasn't really reflected it, even though I saw some about the Dow futures is down several, I think 100 points or something like that. So I think the markets will not move the way they did in the past because they have been hijacked. The markets have been hijacked in the sense that the powers that be wants that narrative to continue, that regardless of what's going on around you, you should still stick to the script of investing and put your funds to work in the equities markets. Turn your life over to somebody, let them take care of you. Everything is normal. Don't worry about all that. So it's being strategically controlled in markets, and they're rigged. They've been hijacked. So they're gonna respond in any form of fashion that the powers that be wants. Central bank induced, of course, but yeah.
And just one last comment, because John Winchester made a great point just now in the chat. And he said metals are filling the gaps, ! So here's what that means, right? So last night at 6:00 p.m., right, gold was at, I don't know what gold ended the week at. I think it was like 1552 or 3 or something like that. I know it was over 1550. I can't remember the exact dollar amount, but then it shot up, right? And I think it opened at like 1570 or 80 or something, but it shot up within that first 2 minutes to like 1590. But here's the point. That's a gap up, right? So you ended the week here and then you start the week here. So what he's talking about are the metals are filling the gaps. So technically speaking, that's actually important, because if you gap up, you're going to come back down and fill that gap, and then you're set to go higher again. So if we've already filled these gaps here, that is bullish, right? That is really, really bullish, right? Because the technical traders out there, they want to see gaps get filled. So after we gap up, we come back down, we fill that gap, man, we're ready to take off again. So yeah, again, that made my hair stand up just thinking about that.
All right. Well, hey, I like that one. So we're ending on a positive note, man. I like that. So despite all the things going around us, control what we can control, which is our attitude and how we respond to it. So with that being the case, everybody, it's been great hanging out this Monday morning. Looking forward to continue to check back in, be back on Wednesday, working on some interviews for this week, so it should be good. Other than that, also, before I let you guys go, I want to bring your attention to something that I've been working on as my New Year project moving forward, and it has to do with the whole idea of employment and how it's going to be very shaky in the days ahead with all those broken promises. So I started a podcast / new channel called Giftpreneur, where I'm going to really focus on encouraging people to make sure they think beyond their jobs, and especially all those promises that are guaranteed to be broken. So the best promise to have is the promise you make to yourself, which incorporates your dream and your gift. So if anybody's interested and it has a little bit of a spiritual element to it, feel free to join that over there. And so it's a Giftpreneur is a YouTube channel. So I want to make sure I let you guys know about that. And other than that, Mr. Half Dollar, looking forward to connecting with you again on Wednesday. There's always going to be more than enough problems to talk about, but the solutions are scarce, so you got to create your own solutions. So I'm excited for that. So and with that being the case, be blessed, be safe. See you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.